Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is part two to my talk with the Titan. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mute out and I am going to play the video to the end. Enjoy.
I wanted to build or at least expand upon or give my understanding of that my aunt was the daughter of Ra, right? And so Ra being the first, I was sitting here, Ra comes from Heliopolis, but Heliopolis is Anu, I believe. And so, am I correct on that, brothers?
Correct.
Yes. So then what we're looking at is first light, the creation. Then the first thing that comes from creation is it's balance that comes forth and exists in a balanced state. You know, to me, those were injunctions associated with the different gnomes and so on and so forth. But to live ma'at, to be makeru, to become an aku meant that you had a philosophical mindset, that you approach the world in a philosophical, with a philosophy in a way that brought justice and balance to that situation. That's the way that you walk in ma'at. You engage in social interactions in such a way that you bring balance to it. You're not walking in isfet, which would be to cause chaos or to please the lower self or to please the animalistic desires within you, and just think of yourself, but think of the community, because that's the difference between Kemetic theology, Kemetic philosophy, Kemetic approach epistemology, and like Indian epistemology. Like in Indian, East Asian epistemology, the kind of goal is to go away from society because of the cyclic reincarnation kind of hell that they have it. But in Kemetic Africa, become a greater servant to your community, bringing balance to your community, because when you come back, when Himimesu, when you you know, you're the elder of the community, so you work for the community so that community can be there when you reincarnate again. That's what I heard when I heard I walk every day in my eye.
Got you. And that makes sense because there's well, you know what? Let me shut up. Let me let our other brothers build a little bit. Let me shut up for a minute.
But you know what I observed that's very interesting? I realized that when you're looking at some of the deities like Asar, they actually stand on Ma'at, and people don't realize that. They literally stand on the platform, and the hill that they were talking about was Ra standing on Ma'at. Am I correct? Have you ever observed that?
Yeah. In fact, when you creates the foundation of all things in Ma'at, is what he states. I found no place I could stand upon. I created a foundation upon I could stand in Ma'at, and all things stem from that. And so I say it in my very first YouTube video ever in like 2008 or something like that. And that is the foundation that all things are created in, is Ma'at. So whether you go this way or that way or do this or that, your foundation is in Ma'at. So when you come back to your real comprehension of life and good things, you should be in Ma'at. So when you fall off that path and get into Isfat and start doing this and a lot of us have, from drug dealing, from this, that, you need to come back to Ma'at. It's your calling card. You need to go back to your foundation of things.
But when I started reading this text, man, I realized the text is just so beautiful. It's a beautiful text. But it's like when you look at the history, of what they did to the text, they actually admit they destroyed the text. They cut the text up and destroyed the text. And now in 2025, people like Faulkner trying to bring it back. So I mean, people need to understand that is definitely imbued in these texts. So when people read it, they definitely recognize how beautiful it is, and they want to preserve it. They don't know why, but it was designed that way. It was imbued with the energy to make you want to read more and learn more. And if you get an opportunity to go and actually see the text and touch the text, it will change your life. These are people who have no respect for it. And then they realize we destroyed a beautiful thing. We have to bring it back so people can see this. And that is what I want people to understand. You can disagree all you want, but when you read the text and make an attempt to read the text, you realize you have to be out of your mind to think that this has no significance and it has no value.
This right here is a psychological book. This is for your psyche. Okay.
Hold on. 1 second, my brother Asar, right? I just want to make sure I do the call out. And ask any question you like on topic. Okay. All right. Link has been shared. Go ahead, Asar.
So this book is a psychological book, right? It takes you through transforming into a golden Heru. It takes you behind your psyche, your soul transformation. And like in here, when you recognize that your hand is parts of the boat because they were shipbuilders, and he asks you, a particular Neteru will ask you, don't you know what your hand is? Aren't you a magician? Don't you know how to do these things? Don't you know how to cause your works? This is a system of psychological changes that you should be making in your soul, with your mind, and the things you do daily. And it also takes you through the journey through the hereafter in case you don't do them properly, such as the hellfire, which starts in here, which you guys see in your book. The difference is in our book, the hellfire water is drinkable when you're in Ma'at. When you're in Isfet, it burns you. I've done a video on that a long time ago. So read but understand what you have here. This is the psychological transformation for you right here. This is what they left out. This is like the description of revelation that you're supposed to do psychologically for your Ka, your Ba, your Ren, your all of that, and also for your physical limbs. This is what keeps you Wab and pure. And when you don't know it, you show it. You do silly things.
There's a lot of, when you look at the purpose of Annie, there's a lot of secret words and utterances that you have to bring forth in order to get through different gates in the text. They talk about different gatekeepers and different quote unquote spells, if you want to use that word, that you have to know in order to get through these different gates. So there's a lot involved in this. And I think people should make an attempt to read it.
All right. So we've got our brother Can in here again. You guys can come on in and ask any questions. Easy Band says, Kalam, so Kemet does have an afterlife. Lol, I want to see you debate him on that, bro. Lol. Okay, cool. And then let's go. Akan, what's the question that you have got for the brothers?
Peace to the brothers, first of all. Peace to all the brothers.
Peace, my brother.
Come on. What did I really want to ask? No, I didn't really have a lot of smoke for this one, you know. I was just literally just listening in, just hearing what the brothers are saying. But I just wanted to know more about the hymns and the prayers and what's the Abrahamic prayers Is it got monotheism in it? Is it polytheism? You know?
Well, we don't really have mono, with no disrespect. That's like, you know, you get mono when you kiss a funny girl or a funny boy, but we don't really have mono. And so with mono, it carries certain things that messes you up when somebody asks you to explain the universe, right? So when they ask you to explain the universe and your God is outside of the universe, or he was this or that, and you can't explain it. So the natural rules are the celestial bodies of the universe. The principles of the nature that are described by them have stories that pertain to your life. And when it comes to what we feel like you have,
Just stopping it for 1 second just to show you how beautifully this is going, right? You see how beautifully everything is falling into line when it comes to talking about these texts, right? So I just want to show you how beautiful this is going, right? Put it back on mute and let the people let them talk.
different characters in your Bible, we have real people. So when we look for those precepts, we go to Ptahhotep to what he taught his son. We go to Ka-Gimni for what he taught his son, right? And this is how we take that and we put that together. And this is why we venerate our ancestors, because these are the real people who actually existed. And I have this story right here of Ankh Shashank getting locked up in jail because his friends made a conspiracy against Pri, which we call the king. And the king wasn't having it. But Ankh Shashank didn't do anything. So his son, because he got life, would come to visit him in jail. And he wrote these precepts down for his son. And then all of a sudden, in your book later on, you get something from Ankh Shashank that says, honor your mother and father so that your days will be long on earth. And this is how
you see when you said Pri, is that based off Pharaoh?
Yes, Pri is your king, yep.
Yeah, okay.
And so these are the things that people, you know, when you put the Shemsu life together, it goes a little differently. We have our Sabiyat text, which is teaching literature, which will cover everything from getting a job on down. When we talk about our prophets in the book, every king was a prophet. Your Bible says that. The Bible, if you're a Bible believer, remember what it says. It says, I gave you, Pharaoh, the power to spread my name and my word. I read that on Sonetta just the other day with our Hebrew brothers. I said he was giving revelation to Pharaoh before he touched any of your pharaohs.
Well, you're talking about the one with Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, but Noah was before all of that. But yeah, go on. Well,
Noah was behind all of these because Noah didn't exist yet. We don't find Noah.
Would you say Heru was a real person?
It's possible that a Heru did exist because you had the clan of Heru. Now, what happens in the mythos is separate from what you would call a real Heru doing, right? So if you want to say Heru transformed into a hippo and was battling Set at the bottom of the ocean and then created a spear and stabbed them with it, and Heru tried to hide as a pig, and no, we don't believe that, but we understand the mythos and why.
Yeah. So basically, you're not put the mythos to the side. There could have been a person who had the title, may not have been his real name, but may have been like the first of the Herus who was a Heru. Technically, this is what you're saying.
Right. It would have been his real name, yup. And it's possible
cool. So is it safe to say that Atum also was a real person?
Atum is different because Atum, and you do have Atums who live.
Because remember, Heru's great granddad is Atum.
Heru's great granddad would be Ra, and Ptahhotep would have started it. If we look at Manetho's list, who does it start with? Hephaestus. Who is Hephaestus? Ptah.
So let me jump in.
The son, Ra. Who's Ra's son? Yeah.
That means if we take it how you're taking it, then these people may be named after their even be Ptah and Ra. Literally, it might be kings named after their god if we take it like how you're taking it.
Well, on the Manito list, we see who do we see first? We see Asar and Heru as people, and then we get Aha afterwards. Then we start the list, right? So we start in all them afterwards, right? Right.
Yeah,
so
Aha is Nama.
That's
so
the son of Nama, right?
No, Aha is Nama.
I don't know about the son of Narma,
Aha
but
is Nama. So they
Yeah,
say
they
that
call
it's
him
the
some
son of
people
Nama.
say it's Narma,
No.
but then you have different people who disagree, right? But on the list, if you see different names, you treat them as different people, right? So when you talk about Scorpion, who they try to mix Narma with, it's a possibility that Narma and Scorpion were two different people. Scorpion has more of a Libyan look. Narma has more of an Egyptian look, and he's grabbing the head of somebody who looks similar to Scorpion, as we see the.
But wasn't Nama? He was he invaded Egypt though, didn't he?
Who? Narma?
He invaded.
No, he did invade. He did invade. He unified.
Where did it say
because he
came
didn't
from?
come from outside. He
Yeah,
didn't come from outside. He didn't come
he
from outside.
unified.
He was the
unified.
first
So
to
when
unify the south and the north, innit?
Possibly,
yeah, but he didn't invade.
on the stone,
He
like
didn't
I
invade.
said, you have Asar, and then you have Heru, and then you have him.
All
So
right.
when you're so basically you're basing
one
Heru
second.
off Aha, basically.
Yo, we have less than 20 minutes left of the show. All right. I want to make sure I give everybody an opportunity to ask questions or make comments. So, family tree, if you are in the comment section right now, I am preying. Okay. So if you've got a question, please ask inside of the comment section. The best way to do it also is to tag Titans TV or to drop a super chat, and that way I can highlight it and read it up for one of our brothers to actually answer. Okay, so and again,
but
has been shared. The link has been shared. So if you guys want to jump on in as well, please do jump on in. We've got less than 20 minutes live on air. Of course, we go off air. We have more conversations, but live on air, it's 20 more minutes. Go ahead.
Can I make a comment? My comment is I don't like the word monotheism or polytheism because I think it doesn't apply to African people. We never use those words. It is not a part of our culture. So I don't think we should be using those things to describe our ancestors because they never use those words. And there really is no such word as God. They're just minimizing the Necheru to that particular thing because that is their understanding. Necheru deals with everything in existence. The physical, the spiritual, animals, everything. So I don't like to use the word God because it confuses people. Would you agree?
I do to a degree. I think when you use English, you have to give them something to sit down on. But I definitely feel your sentiment, like I felt Mfudishi's sentiment. But if I'm talking to them in English, and I got to give them what they get. Like if we could talk Zulu, we start Salbona when they're Johnny Tosa. Or if we talking Arabic, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're speaking English. So we got to give them something that they can go to and go with so that they comprehend. That's the only reason why the term is generally used, because we're in English. But I definitely feel you concerning nature far exceeds the word God.
And I think we need to start to let people understand that. We're not just, there's no such word as God, so there's no such thing as polytheism. They simply took Ra, who was a personification of the universe, and made everything from him. Because they say he came out of the watery noon in an egg. So that is why when you see the circle with the little dot in it, that is a cosmic egg. Telling you where he came from. And everything else came from him.
That could be based on your school of thought, though.
No, it says
it would be the Pa'ut,
which
is the singularity.
So it could be because if you're
recognized by all the schools of thought,
if he's
because they
basing
all
the
seen the
creation
Enneads
origin
and they all seen the Sejats. So it's not as if that's one here and one coming from here. What you would say school of thought would be the particular Necheru that you shimsu, that you follow. But when we talk about the Pa'ut, they all agreed that the Ennead was this, and that The Pa'ut is all the natural, all things together. And then the text.
Simplify it for me, because I'll be real. All the mad names, I'm not gonna know like that. I know to a certain degree if you're talking Kemet, innit? So when you're saying some things, if possible,
let's break it down. So
before you simplify that, real quickly, we've got Marchea. They're asking the question, which I think is very relevant, right? Which what you're going through right now. You know, you're about to go into the Pesejet and the rest of the Pa'ut and the Necheru. Just a quick one-liner. I don't think a one-liner would suffice, but, you know, is the Orisha of Yoruba a copy, or a better terminology, maybe a continuation, or a
derivative?
A derivative.
But why would they be derivative and Arabic and Hebrew copy?
And why not it being its antecedent as well?
Antecedent, because if you're an Ifa or Orisha, you are family, and they still consider you to be Vudan. Sankofa's in the building now. I will tell you this, my brother. When it talks about all the Necheru being as one, it says all the Necheru together are the face of Amun. Okay, and then they start to break down the portions of Amun. Why? Because your universe is what you're contained in, which he represents the seen and the unseen of the universe. But when it comes to different portions of the universe, like your dark matter, your dark energy, you're talking about different entities. So if you, like I said, if you have difficulties explaining the full establishment of the universe. You only have one go-to when you can see there are different things that beget other things.
I wanted to jump in earlier, but I didn't have an opportunity. When we're looking at ancient Egypt, what we're looking at is the flowering of African civilization. Really, you know what I'm saying? We gravitate towards Egypt because it has the most documentation in relationship to the greatness of the African mind in producing civilization. And I'm saying that to say this, like, there's a thing that European scholars call euhemerization, right? Euhemerization is the deification of a human, right? So like their Caesars would be deified, so on and so forth, and different people, different humans became deified in their theology. But that's an African concept, and so the fact that Heru could quite possibly have been a person that was divinized is something that we see repeated in African cosmology even to this day. My brother said its derivatives are a function of African thought. The Orisha would be a function of African thought, just like euhemerization, our divinization of humans would be a function of African thought, because we have the same thing going on with Shango.
Yeah, I was just about to say Shango as well.
Yeah, Shango, once having been man, then because of his deeds by being Makeru or Ubuntu, by living through Ubuntu philosophy and living for his people, did such great deeds that he became euhemerized. He became divinized, right? And not only divinized, but then incorporated holistically into their theology. That's the other thing that studying Kemetic theology will give you an understanding of, is that we were easily able to incorporate new elements into a holistic theology. So it is quite possible that Heru, some of these deities that we see were actually people that then got theologized and monolithic.
Yeah, this is what I was just about to say. That's why I asked Asar that his origin story may be from a different school of thought, because in the Akan, our thing's different. It's not Ra. It would be Amun. That would be the highest or the creator of anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And Ra is seen as a servant to Amun in my culture. You know what I'm saying? So it would differ greatly with what he's trying to put out.
Yeah.
It actually, that's why we have the term Amun Ra, because Ra becomes a servant in this culture as well. So I don't see where you saw the difference in that. But yeah, if, like I said, the different Necha will make you a Shimsu of whichever Necha you decide to follow in their concept. Doesn't mean you couldn't serve more than one, as well, as we see in several cases where we have priests being priest of Mut, priest of Aset, and priest of Asar. So they're almost like levels of which Neteru, but you're talking about different cultural divinities getting together as a conglomerate as Kemet came together. So when we go to the story of Set getting ready to put Asar into the capsule, into, you know, the about to be the first mummy, basically, you find 72 septots, 72 city-states, 72 gnomes, as opposed to the 42 that you're used to. That's 72 different cultures, and one was a queen from Io.
Wait, repeat that again. You said there's 72, not 42.
There was 72 early, and there were even more than that initially. And it broke down.
It being 72.
Hold up, listen.
Was that specific?
Hold up, yeah, 72 is specific, but listen, because that question is not really, you know, anything major, and knowing that is important. As they break down, there are 13 septots in top what you call Nubia. There are 20 and 22 in Upper and Lower Kemet. But before that, there were more. And so as different cultures started to step out of that conglomerate of what you would call like a United States or Great Britain, they lowered the number down. Now there's a deity who runs each one of those city-states. You can see that in the Neteru list when you look next to the city-states of who was their local god and who was their state god. See why I got to use that term God, Jose, to make it simple for him. So
But then
here's another thing. In the Papyrus Jumil,
the unifier.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that would be the end of this. You have a blessed and wonderful day.